Splashcreen. Wake up, motherfucker.
Hello. Hello. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it works. All right. Yeah, it's live. What's up? What's up? March 8th, 2026, a Sunday. It's just going to be a pre-show for Napstar. Napstar is going to have a panel show on the Boyd in about 3 hours or so. So, what's that? 4 o'clock Eastern. All right. I'm gonna do some Boyd stuff after I go through whatever um, things we have to discuss about Iraq and all that other things, and then yeah, we'll move there. Bitcoin, nothing happened over the weekend. Quiet. So don't have to worry about that. Don't need to discuss anything. For the rest of the week, we'll see how it goes. I'm waiting for Oracle earnings. It's going to be on Tuesday afternoon, I believe. That's the only earnings I'll care about. And apart from that, just waiting for more news on oil. See if it's going to get to over 100 a barrel this week. Okay. So here's the latest on the Strait of Hormuz.
The March 7th, 2026 edition of What's Going On with Shipping. Did the U.S. Navy just torpedo global shipping? I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So we've been following the issues in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Again, combat operations began by the United States and Israel at the end of February, and what we've seen is a trickling off of traffic, and when I say trickling off, I mean stopping up, of traffic coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. Now the United States has announced several plans to get traffic flowing through there. One is an insurance program to back the insurance on shipping, which I'll talk about. And the second is an issue of escorting. We're going to talk about that. But what I really also want to talk about is what the U.S. should be doing offensively to bring this conflict to an end, particularly targeting not just the Iranian Navy, but the Iranian Merchant Marine, because I don't think the U.S. government, Department of War / Defense, the Navy really understand commercial shipping. And Iran is vulnerable in this one area, and we're going to talk about that. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Well, every U.S. Navy officer is weaned on this. Alfred Thayer Mahan's The Influence of Sea Power Upon History. I mean, it's classic. I mean, every one of them do it. I mean, they read this all the time, but they don't. They read like the first chapter of it, and then what they pull from this is the idea of decisive battle. The idea, if you ask any naval officer what Mahan talks about, it is bringing fleet on fleet battle against each other, and that is what they come up with. And it's fundamentally wrong, let me be clear, because you got to read beyond the influence of sea power at sea. If you do that, you start to understand a little bit more about it. And for that, I go to my good buddy, Nick Lambert. Nick Lambert has 2 books that everybody should read, in my opinion, when it comes to understanding maritime naval warfare. First is his Planning Armageddon. This is how the British planned for economic warfare before the First World War. The Admiralty had an entire section that looked at how to wage economic warfare because it's all about trade and commerce, people. This is what it's all about. Second book he does has to deal with also Mahan, and that is his Neptune Factor. I have talked about this book a lot. I love this book, literally sleep with it next to my bed. I have a little bookshelf there. I don't sleep with it right up, cuddle with me. I don't want to give Nick the wrong impression here. But I have a little bookshelf, and it's one of the books I have kind of readily available. This book, Neptune Factor, is absolutely perfect. It's the concept of sea power. I always use this term sea power as 2 words. It's very interesting. Sometimes you'll see sea power as 1 word. Sometimes you'll see it as 2. The classic Mahanian is 2 words. And the reason I use 2 words is because I think of it as commercial and naval. It's 2 different things. The U.S. Navy and the U.S. military use it as 1 word, sea power. And they use it as sea power for a very important issue. They see it as the projection of military force, of naval force. And unfortunately, the U.S. has developed into that. And I could take you for a long road down history here to talk about why that has evolved. But suffice it to say, the U.S. does not view commercial shipping in an appropriate way. And I think that leads us into the trouble we see right now regarding Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Real quick, look at some of the news stories that's out here right now about this, and we'll highlight this. So first one, this one from Reuters. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps challenges Trump to have U.S. vessels escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. So according to the story, the U.S. Navy could begin escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz if necessary. Trump said on Tuesday, we'll talk about why that's probably not going to happen, the conflict in the Middle East has halted shipping and energy through the vital Strait of Hormuz. A Guard spokesman said, quote, Iran strongly welcomes the escort of oil tankers and that U.S. forces will be there for the crossing of the Strait of Hormuz. We are, by the way, awaiting their presence. Okay, he might as well have just had an evil laugh at the end of that. I mean, come on, seriously? Are we a cartoon villain now? That's what we're getting. We're getting the cartoon villain levels of proportion here with the Iranian state media. Then you have this. We recommend that before making any decision, the Americans remember the fire on the American supertanker Bridgeton in 1987. There was no fire. I'll talk about that in a second. And the oil tankers that were recently targeted. And finally, at least 9 vessels have been attacked since the U.S. and Israel first began strikes on Iran on Saturday, and Guard ordered ships not to cross the strategic waterway. All right, so here is the IRGC throwing down the proverbial gauntlet against the United States. We dare you to go ahead and escort through the Strait of Hormuz. We get this story then from Lorianne Larocco. Absolutely must follow. You got to follow Lorianne. She's great. Iranian Shadow Fleet and Greek-affiliated ships lead Strait of Hormuz transits. That's right. We do have some passages through the Strait of Hormuz over the past couple of days. And the ones that are doing it are Iranian vessels. Yes, Iranian ships are passing out. We just had a fully loaded Iranian tanker come out. Because, again, the Iranians are loading ships. This is one of the things to keep remember. The Iranians expect the strait to be open, and they just rolled a tanker out through it. But the other one are the mad Greeks. And Greek shipping is I hate to put a stereotype on anything, but Greek shippers are a classic stereotype. They will run this gauntlet. Why will they run this gauntlet? It's very easy to understand. Money. Big amounts of money. That's what they're talking about. When you start looking at the amount of money being fixed here, it is incredible. I can't.
So just to point it out, yeah, Greek shipping is very huge. Most of the shippers that go around the world are run by Greeks with like the parentheses around their names, I guess. Some people might say they're like, covert, whatever, tribes people. But yeah, there used to be a lot of power in the Ottoman Empire during that time, and the Greeks ran that shit. So yeah, they still run that shit even to the modern era. So I know you guys know about Onassis, right? That name, because he married the Kennedy's widow, right? So that's where it comes from. Yeah, so Greeks are a powerhouse. Greeks, South Koreans, Chinese, and Israelis and Norwegians. Yeah.
Tell you, there was a fixing for a VLCC, very large crude carrier, normally $50,000 a day, $770,000 a day. $770,000 a day. That is again the level of money, Scrooge McDuck level. This is where we're getting at right now in this idea of moving ships through this area. Then we get this story from Paul Morgan over at G Captain. When the underwriters blinked, what the Hormuz insurance crisis really means. The viral social media post claimed Donald Trump had just, quote, killed the British Empire in a matter of minutes. The truth is simultaneously more complicated, more interesting, and in some ways more consequential than that. The broad story is real. When U.S. and Israeli forces launched coordinated strikes on Iran in late February 2026, triggering what Tehran declared a full closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the first system to buckle was not military, but actuarial. Actuarial. That's a tough word to say. I'm not going to lie. That one kind of pulled me there a little bit. All right. What's the viral social media post they're talking about? John Conrad. John Conrad had a viral post. I mean viral. Millions of people follow that post regarding insurance. And Paul Morgan kind of breaks this down a little bit and goes into detail. Suffice it to say, let me give you the nuts and bolts of the insurance crisis. Ships have insurance. Insurance is what makes ships move. Without insurance, you don't move. This is what creates the dark fleet. Dark fleet runs around without insurance and creates a myriad of problems. Most ships are insured through 12 P&I clubs. Those 12 P&I clubs are actually the ship owners pooling their money together to provide insurance. And it provides stacks of insurance for $10 million by an individual club, $100 million by the 12 P&I clubs, and then they have reinsurance on top of it. The first initial level of reinsurance comes from an insurance group called Hydra. Yes, Hydra. Yes, we're using the Marvel.
Another great area to look at is insurance companies. When I always talk about insurance around here, people automatically somehow they think of medical insurance. They don't think about car insurance and personal injury insurance, like liabilities, freaking home insurance. Somehow people just forget all those things. Those are really where companies make the most money. They don't make money on medical insurance, really, because medical insurance is too tied with the government, and the government can dictate regulations, and that's why a lot of the medical insurers right now are getting hammered. Trump is definitely changing how things are working over there. Also, same thing with housing builders. He's also doing regulations over there. So housing building, construction. So people that build multi-units and those little ticky-tacky suburban type neighborhoods, those get affected as well. But I'm digressing on that point. He mentioned reinsurance. So actually you can get insurance on your insurance. That's what reinsurance means. So I think Warren Buffett does some of that. He also owns Geico, so he has the car, home, and boating. Geico also does boating insurance, personal, leisure boating. You're gonna have to get insurance. So I know the Thorpes have a boat. I don't know if it's insured by anybody, but he's talking about big tanker ships and all that. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of insurance, and if you're reinsuring that, guess what? That multiplies up, right?
Villains here for this. And then above that, you have a whole batch of other reinsurers. It goes all the way up to $3.35 billion. There is no ship worth $3.35 billion commercially out there. None. But the issue here is liability. And liability is the key. You have to insure the liability. Because if you're sailing a VLCC, very large crude carrier, through the Persian Gulf, the ship gets hit, you have a massive oil spill, and you kill, ducks and pelicans and whatever else out there and fish, you are on the hook for providing that cleanup. And that is the issue where it comes to liability. You have this story from Reuters. Maritime insurance premiums surge as Iran conflict widens. As the conflict in the Gulf widens, maritime insurance premiums for war coverage are surging, in some cases more than 1,000%. Give you an idea here, analysts at Jefferies estimated on Thursday that potential industry losses from at least 7 vessels reported damage at the time its note was published on March 5th could reach up to $1.75 billion, and these are smaller vessels. While most tankers valued between $200 and $300 million, the new insurance rate of 3% would imply a hull risk premium about $7.5 million, up from around 0.25% or $625,000 before the conflict begins. So you're talking about an increase of $7 million to move ships through. Now, that's a high-end VLCC. $7 million, that's spread across 1 million barrels or 2 million barrels of fuel. So, you're talking about dollars on the barrel here. We're talking about, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that you're going to sail through it, even with that higher insurance rate. Now, I will note that the 3% tends to be for ships affiliated with the US, UK, and Israel more than anything else. You're getting a much lower insurance rate for vessels that don't have that connection to the US, the UK, and Israel because, Iran hates them. So, Sal, how did the U.S. torpedo global shipping? Well, this has to do with the torpedoing and the sinking of the Iranian frigate Dina off the coast of Sri Lanka. Now, there's a lot of questions about whether the U.S. should have done this or shouldn't have done it. Was the ship unarmed? Was it armed? My point of contention here is where they did this and the ramifications of it, because I don't think the U.S. factored this in at all. This story here by Bloomberg, reinsurers scrap war risk cover after U.S. torpedoes Iranian ship. London-based reinsurers are issuing 7-day cancellation notices on marine war risk coverage after a U.S. submarine torpedoed an Iranian warship off Sri Lanka. This is what triggered the first crisis. So why did all the ships stop and congregate on both sides of the Strait of Hormuz? Because the reinsurers, those who insure the insurance, said, hey, you don't have enough coverage to potentially cover all the risk. So stop the ships, renegotiate higher rates, and then we will reinsure you, because then you have enough backstop should something happen. Well, because the U.S. targeted this vessel off of Sri Lanka, the U.S. has just expanded the war zone. What do I mean? Let's go over to marine traffic. So here is the kind of the war zone that we know. This is the Persian Gulf. This is the Gulf of Oman. And more importantly, up here, our beautiful Straits of Hormuz, pretty denuded of any shipping. Now, we should note that there are ships going through here. They're just not squawking their AIS. their automated identification system. So we don't have vessels showing us where they are. But the question is the sinking of the Iranian frigate, which is down here off the coast of Sri Lanka. Notice the flow of traffic on this chart. Green represents cargo ships, red represent tankers. Ships coming from Asia come through the South China Sea, past Singapore, into the Malacca Straits, and then here, just north of Sumatra, the ships split. The green cargo ships are heading for the Cape of Good Hope because they're not running as much through the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden because of the Houthis. But this ever large spread of red ships, these are tankers, are heading here south of Sri Lanka and then dispersing either up the coast of India, heading over toward the Red Sea, or up toward the Persian Gulf. We know that the sinking took place here just south of Sri Lanka. There's a port here called Galley. This is where we saw the survivors being taken. There were some images taken, and what we saw there was vessels in the background. So there's a large traffic separation scheme here, ships heading west or to the north, ships heading to the east or the south. So the sinking took place outside the territorial waters. That's this purple line right here. We think it's about 19 miles out, so somewhere around here. The problem the reinsurers have is this. That sinking took place in a pretty crowded part of the world's oceans. And now, yes, the U.S. targeted specifically an Iranian vessel, but the war zone has expanded. And what we could potentially see is the entire Indian Ocean be designated a potential risk area. Maybe not a high risk area. Maybe we're not going to get the level of insurance that they're requiring to go through the Strait of Hormuz. But what we could see is all of a sudden insurance rates go up maybe a couple of fractions of a percent. But because of the volume of traffic that runs through this area, that is astronomical in terms of cost. I mean, it is huge.
Good morning, Ember. What's up? What's up? Yeah, if you want to come back later, I'm going to cover some Boyd stuff. And if you're really interested, we'll have a panel on Napstar's channel later on, I think 4 o'clock Eastern. Okay. Yeah, at Anita Bong Hit. So check that out. Here, I'm going to put the link up to the channel. And then here's a link to the stream that it'll have. So, and I'll also cover some Boyd stuff myself just before into his stream. I think within about maybe 30-ish more minutes, I'll be done with the finance stuff. Okay.
However, the sinking of the ship in a very crowded seaway. Now, I'm not saying that there was any danger to shipping at the time. I'm sure the U.S. ensured that there was no commercial ships in and around the area where they targeted. It was the USS Charlotte, a Los Angeles class submarine that did this. But for the insurers and for commercial shipping, it creates a new problem. So that brings us to the kind of the two historical examples we have where the U.S. Navy has countered the threat to contested seas with commercial shipping. Now, you can go back to World War II and look at that, but that's a pretty old analogy. Plus, convoying was very successful in World War II. If you were in a convoy, you had over a 99% chance of surviving in an escorted convoy in World War II. Yes, there were big convoy battles, pedestal, PQ-17, but the vast majority of convoys go through with no loss whatsoever. I mean, it's the successful way to do it. But historically, we have two examples of convoys that the U.S. is drawing upon right now, and everybody is screaming about. The first one is Ernest Will. This is during the tanker war of the 1980s. And this chart by Ronald O'Rourke in U.S. Naval Institute Proceedings gives you a breakdown of ship attacks during this period of time. So it started off gradual. It was largely Iraq that was doing it at the time, but then we saw it expanded. And as you get later in the war, the number of ship attacks do increase. And this is one of the reasons why the insurance in the tanker war is much different than what we saw in this recent conflict. This conflict was instantaneous, turned on all of a sudden, and you had strikes. In the tanker war, much different. You had a gradual kind of buildup here, an escalation, and so tanker rates slowly grew over time. And matter of fact, what we eventually saw was rates anywhere from 3 to 5, and even at some point 7 to 10%, depending on the nature of the conflict. Now, the U.S. got involved. And the U.S. in 1987 started escorting ships out, specifically U.S. flag vessels and Kuwaiti reflag. Now, the U.S. had been escorting U.S. flag vessels the entire time. but there weren't that many U.S. vessels going in and out of that region. Instead, the Kuwaitis were in a quandary. They found themselves with their ships being attacked, and they literally went to both the Soviet Union and the U.S. They were trying to play the U.S. off the Soviet Union, and the U.S. came in. But let's talk about the misconceptions of this. Number one, we didn't just escort through the Strait of Hormuz. When you did escorts in this operation, you had to escort all the way from Kuwait out. That's the distance you had to cover. That's over 500 miles. The first convoy consisted of 4 U.S. naval vessels and approximately, I think, about 3 tankers coming out. One of the tankers was the Bridgeton. And the Bridgeton struck a mine. It didn't catch fire. There was a huge plume of water that came up. The Bridgeton started leaking oil. And the U.S. naval vessels at the time got behind the Bridgeton because they did not have mine-sweeping capability to deal with mines in the Persian Gulf. Now, ironically, again, the irony in all these stories is just incredible. Just the other month, the U.S. heavy lifted its 4 minesweepers out of the Persian Gulf. Since the 1980s, we've had minesweepers in the Persian Gulf. That is until the other month when we hauled 4 of them out. Now, I should caveat this. The U.S. has deployed 3 littoral combat ships of the Independence class with minesweeping capability on board. However, they've never been tested in combat environments, and I should note that all 3 of them, I believe, have been pulled out of the Persian Gulf. So there's no minesweeping capability within the Persian Gulf. But the point of this is, if you're going to escort, you're not going to just escort through the Strait of Hormuz. You're going to have to escort along the full 500 miles, and you're going to have to deal with all the asymmetric threats out there. You're going to have to deal with the typical threats, the Iranian missiles. But you got unmanned surface vessels. You got unmanned aerial vessels. You have the potential for mine strikes. You have all those issues out there, and that is going to be crucial. And the most recent example we have of this is the United States military's operations in and around the Red Sea against the Houthi. And in December of 2023, the U.S. had a substantial military force in and around the area. An amphibious ready group based on the USS Bataan, a carrier strike group based on the USS Dwight Eisenhower, and the U.S. initiated Operation Prosperity Guardian. However, Prosperity Guardian was not really escort operations. What the United States did was establish basically a missile cordon. They put U.S. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and 1 Type 45 destroyer from the Royal Navy around here, the southwest corner of Yemen, because this is where the Houthi are. Because you have the Red Sea here, you have the Gulf of Aden here, and then you got this narrow little strait of water here between Asia and Africa, known as the Bab el-Mandab. Cheers. Tradition here at What's Going On with Shipping. When you mention the Bab el-Mandab, have a sip of whatever you happen to have. There's been some episodes where it can be pretty bad, but we'll try to avoid too much talk about it. The U.S. deployed their forces, and Prosperity Guardian was an operation that demonstrated that the U.S. is absolutely effective in shooting down drones and missiles. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyers racked up a huge success in this operation. So I covered this at the time when the channel was up and running, and we looked at it, and very early on.
I'm in charge right here. Come on, Duale. Are you ready for some tankers to pirate, bro? It's time to pirate, baby.
Matter of fact, in December of 2023, I talked about the idea, do we convoy or not? That's actually an image of some of those convoys during Ernest Will in the Persian Gulf in the late 80s. What we saw was a series of escalations, and in January 9th, there was a massive Red Sea convoy battle that was fought by the United States, the British against the Houthi. The level of attacks were so ferocious, no ships were hit or damaged, but there were some close calls, that U.S. ships abandoned the Red Sea. They didn't return back to that until September of not 2024, but September of 2025. And now the ships have pulled back again because of the threat of the Houthi in alliance with the Iranians. And so the idea of convoy battles is going to be a tough one because the U.S. found the Houthis a challenge. Now, I've written about this back in 2019, did a piece for G-Captain talking about a potential tanker war part 2. This was after Iran attacked a series of ships in 2019. And so this has been kind of lingering around for a long time. And one of the big things that was noted here in the Red Sea was there was an option. You can go around Africa. And that's exactly what we saw. If you look at this chart, you'll see the drop in vessel traffic through the Suez Canal as vessels went around. And in particular, what you saw was high-value vessels, really expensive ships, going around because it was more economical to sail around Africa, pay the extra money in fuel, than to pay the cost to go through the Red Sea. Now, that brings us to the situation in the Indian Ocean right now. Go back to my buddy Ian Ellis and his chart right here. We have two major forces that are in the area. We have the Abraham Lincoln Battle Group and its escorts down here in the Indian Ocean. The Gerald Ford just came through the Suez Canal, so it is now here in the Red Sea and potentially moving down into the Indian Ocean. And the Bush, the George H.W. Bush, just sailed from the east coast of the United States. It will be in shopping coming into the theater, into the Mediterranean shortly. But the key thing is the number of escort vessels here. Roughly about 8 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers assigned and operating in the 5th Fleet. This is the Central Command AOR, and about 8 Burke-class destroyers operating in the 6th Fleet area of operations. That is not enough ships, in my opinion, to be able to run a escort operation through the region. Now, we are starting to see some movement through the straits, but not a lot. This is the latest report from the Joint Maritime Information Center. Notice here the numbers heading through the Strait of Hormuz, the SOH as it lists there, 98 on February 28th, down to 18 on 1 March, down to 1 by 5 March, 2 on 4 March, and then 4 on 5 and 6 March. So we're seeing it come up a bit. All right, Sal, you've yabbered on quite a bit here. What's your strategy? How would you deal with this? Well, this is what I would do. I would target Iranian commercial ships, specifically their tankers. What do I mean? So over on X, Ed Finley Richardson, who's a must follow. If you want to understand tankers, there's a couple of key people to follow over there, and Ed Finley Richardson is one of the best. He put out a thread and basically sat there and said, what I would do, and this is Ed saying this, is plunk a torpedo into one of the Iranian VLCCs and take it out, because the Iranian fleet is exposed. This is a list of Iranian vessels. They have 32 very large crude carriers operated by NITC. This is the Iranian shipping line. To me, that is the jugular of Iran. I don't agree with the idea of torpedoing it. I don't like that idea because, number one, you definitely don't want to torpedo a fully loaded vessel. That's going to cause you a lot of problems. However, one of the things the U.S. has demonstrated recently, and very apt at doing it, by the way, is takedown of ships. And for that, the U.S. has the perfect tool to use for that. Actually, they have two. One of them are Marine Amphibious Ready Groups. ARGs, Amphibious Ready Groups with a Marine Expeditionary Unit, are mobile, basically, battalions that can operate from 3 ships, typically an LHA or an LHD, and a LSD and an LPD, although some have 2 LPDs now. But there's about 5,000 troops on board with helicopters, V-22s, you name it. They have the capability to roam the ocean and be mobile assault units. Typically, we think of them storming the beaches, a la, Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, even though that's Army. We also have these called Expeditionary Support Bases. These are modified Alaska-class supertankers built in San Diego by the United States. And what you have up forward is this huge crew compartment where you can base roughly around 250 to 500 troops on board. You've got this massive flight deck up above where you can stage helicopters on. You have boat launching capabilities down below it. These things are basically sovereign islands floating around. And it is a ship like this, the Miguel Keith, that was just used to take down Venezuelan tankers in the Indian Ocean. So she is in the area, either in and around the Indian Ocean or the South China Sea. So this is marine traffic again, and you're seeing all that traffic here in the region. Let's go ahead and eliminate everything except for Iranian ships here on the map. And one of the things you start seeing is there are some Iranian ships out here on the high seas. For example, right here, heading toward the southern coast of India, is the Hilda 1, a crude oil tanker. Right here in the Straits of Malacca, we have another crude oil tanker. Off of Malaysia right now, we have another tanker in and around the area. There's quite a few, as a matter of fact. All of these are potential targets for the United States. I don't think you need to torpedo them, although the U.S. has demonstrated the capability to do that. However, takedowns are definitely within the realm of possibility. If the U.S. starts seizing these vessels, grabbing them and holding them, that's going to start really putting pressure on Iran. Understand, you want Iran to back away from attacking vessels in the Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. is going to be hard-pressed to do escorts. They just are. They don't have the assets and the resources to do it. They're going to have to pull air assets away from their offensive capability. It's going to expose their naval vessels to potential attack because of the very narrow region of the Persian Gulf. Again, even the Straits of Hormuz is narrow, but the Persian Gulf is narrow. It really is. And it's a really tough place to operate because you're so close. You're going to be dealing with unmanned surface, unmanned aerial craft. You're going to have a problem with expending ordnance off the Arleigh Burkes. If you expend your ordnance off the Arleigh Burkes, you got to go back down to Diego Garcia to reload and put new equipment and new weapons on it. You're going to have to replenish at sea or in port. You really don't want to do that. We just had the Stena Imperative hit in the port of Bahrain, U.S. flagged tanker that was in the shipyard there. So what does this do? You go offensive. You target the Iranian merchant fleet because understand those 38 VLCCs in NITC is the backbone of the Iranian economy. You don't want to hit Karg Island, their main export facility, because if you hit Karg Island, then you give the Iranians no reason not to start dropping mines into the Persian Gulf. And all you got to do is say you're dropping mines to cause a mine problem. Understand, you don't need one mine. You create a problem just with it. And mines are the biggest dilemma we would face in that scenario. But if you start grabbing ships a la the way we did it with the Venezuelans, then you can start pressuring them. You can start grabbing them, put prize crews on them from the U.S. Navy or from Military Sea Lift Command, civilian merchant mariners, put them on them, sail them over to Diego Garcia, stick them in the anchorage there, hold them, start scooping up Iranian oil tankers on the high seas, and sit there and say, you want them back? Then let's go ahead and get to the peace table. Believe me, this is the jugular of the Iranians, and everybody in commercial shipping knows this, but I'm not sure everybody in the U.S. government knows it. So I think that's the strategy the U.S. should be thinking about. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit the super thanks button down below or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Until our next episode or until the next thing blows up in and around the Persian Gulf, which will probably be later this afternoon. This is Sal, signing off.
All right. Yeah, subscribe to his channel. Very good shipping channel. I followed him since like the whole COVID and then the whole thing with the Maryland, that whole bridge when that freaking huge cargo container ship rammed right into the bridge. Yeah, he's got good info if you're interested in that type of stuff, for sure. And we're getting back into it where shipping does matter, That's going to affect how inflation and everything else is going to go, even if you're not interested in insurance companies or shipping companies. That's something still you have to pay attention to because it will affect your bottom line. So not only gas and oil, but also the cost of transportation of goods throughout the world will be affected. So yeah, there you go. That's it, man. Big boo-boo. Now any ship might be blown up all across the world just because they are suspected to be Russian, Chinese, Iranian, whatever. Anybody that's helping the Iranian could be a target right now if this keeps on continuing. Okay, so let me shift gears here. We're going to do shortwave radio. I haven't watched any of these things. I haven't watched, so anything I show you here is pretty much I'm watching the first time. But I did watch this one ahead of time, and I thought this part was interesting.
It's used to keep the frequency clear until the Russian military sends traffic. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, it's been the subject of regular jamming and trolling. Last night I noticed it was being jammed by an unknown signal, probably the efforts of a pirate. It was strong here in the UK and completely obliterated the buzzer on 4625 kHz. This lasted for several minutes. It would seem that even Radio Zand, the music pirate that occupies 4625 kHz, video link in the description, got tired of the jammer and closed down his station for the night.
Alright, I'm gonna go now. I'll let you let now. Don't interrupt my transmission next time. Have fun with your transmission and good luck. I wish everyone good health, course, and peace to the room. Hope you have a great night. Goodbye, everyone. This was Radio Zand.
Soon after, the buzzer's frequency was repeatedly jammed with pro-Israel music, such as various incarnations of the folk song Hava Nagila. Whoever was behind the jamming also had a go at some spectrum art, where images are transmitted and shown on the waterfall.
So someone drew the Star of David using radio waves. Oh, how cute. How cute. Yeah, you can follow Ridgeway. I think this is let me see, Manchester Ridgeway or something like that. Ridgeway. Let me get his channel. Ridgeway. Manchester. Oh, Ringway, Manchester. Okay. I recently discovered this one. This was recommended to me like a week ago. Pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting. So he has a whole slew of shortwave radio information. So if you're interested in that type of hobby, you know, ham radio, shortwave radio, all that kind of stuff, yes, go over there. Check it out. It's an interesting hobby, definitely. And if you're an electrical engineer like me, yeah, you find some of that stuff very interesting. Okay, what's up, Pixie Poo? What's up, Mike from Boston? Yeah, good to see you, Duale. Good to see you. Of course. Okay, so this is a video that was recently posted from him. So let's see what's up with the Iranian number station here.
Well, it's been an interesting week on the HF bands. The highlight has been the new suspected Iranian number station. It reads groups of numbers in Farsi and has been heard numerous times, usually twice a day at 2 and 6. It's special because it's the first new number station to come on the air since V30 out of Vietnam in 2010. In a world where the use of number stations has gradually declined over the decades, a new one is a big deal. The 6 PM broadcasts especially have gained quite a listener base this week. Everyone has been intrigued, but things are quickly changing by the day. The frequency the station originally occupied, 7910 kHz, began to be targeted by a prolific jammer, and now this new Persian oddity has moved elsewhere. Many of the comments on my recent videos regarding this station have posed the same question. Could V32 actually be operated by somebody other than Iran? Could it be operated by the United States Central Intelligence Agency or Israel's Mossad in order to signal agents inside Iran has been the main question put forward in the comments. While many people have raised this question, on the face of it, it sounds absurd. The CIA hasn't operated a number station for many decades, and Israel hasn't for about 15 years either. Presumably, they've moved to more sophisticated ways of sending secret information. These past few days, however, something has happened that would appear to support the theory that the Persian number station may not be Iranian in origin. It's been jammed, and it's been jammed hard. The interesting thing is that the jammer sounds remarkably like the bubble jammers Iran uses and has used for many years in order to jam foreign broadcasters such as Radio Farda. Radio Farda is the Iranian branch of the US government-funded Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty external broadcast service. It broadcasts news and information into Iran, and Iran hates it. It doesn't want it broadcasting to its citizens, and so it spends a lot of time, effort and money operating a network of jammers in order to block those signals from being received in Iran. I made a video on these jammers recently, which I'll link in the description below. The frequency the suspected Iranian number station occupies, 7910 kHz, has been the subject of persistent jamming in the latter half of this week. The jamming became so strong and so consistent, even when the number station wasn't transmitting. Then, on Friday, the Persian number station didn't send a message at all. I, and I'm sure many hundreds of others, listened on both scheduled times, but nothing happened. Then, this weekend, it would appear that the Persian number station has moved to a new frequency. It's suspected that this is because of the jamming. The new frequency is 7842 kHz, just slightly further down the spectrum, far enough away to evade the jammer that has been plaguing 7910 kHz. If the Persian number station has moved frequency due to Iranian jamming, then it can't be Iranian in origin. The waters are extremely muddy at the moment, as is often the case when a new enigma is found on the spectrum. It's the job of us listeners to monitor and share information in an attempt to try and put the pieces of the jigsaw together, but as with every other number station, we only know what we know, the tip of the iceberg. What we don't know often lies under the surface in the depths and is very rarely revealed. What's even more interesting about all of this is the sound of the Windows operating system that was clearly heard during a transmission of the Persian number station last night. I can't take credit for this recording, it was sent to me by a viewer out of Germany called Max, so thank you Max. Take a listen.
5 4 9 5 4 1 2 8 3 9 6 0 8 7 6 5 4 4 7 0 8 7 6 5 4 4 7 2 1.
So why is this interesting? Well, it goes back to the good old days of number station monitoring, when numerous stations appeared to be using Windows XP machines as the backbone of their transmissions. The first that comes to mind is E06, the English Man, a station operated by Russian intelligence, which is still active from multiple sites across Russia.
Like, I'll tell you this, a lot of old ass equipment. So when I went to school, we had a lot of old oscilloscopes and, measuring equipment, right? Voltmeters, ohmmeters, all kinds of stuff. And they were so old that you couldn't install any updated operating system on them. They're stuck at like Windows XP or Windows NT or whatever pieces of shit like operating system. Some even, like, if it's older, they're just gonna be forever on some really ancient MS-DOS OS2 warp or some trash, and you have no choice but to use it. And a lot of this old like equipment is very good. They're very robust, and you're not gonna find replacements for them, especially like radio analog transmitters and things like that. I'm sure is on the same principle. They can't upgrade. Yes, they still have floppy disk. Yes, that's right. And one of those little like old machines was hooked up to the network in school, and apparently they found someone hacked into that damn little like machine. All it's supposed to do is measure volts and currents and signals, RF radio, whatever, and it was being used as a node on a porn web sharing network. It was just there sharing porn or some shit. It was just like, what the fuck? someone actually like went in here and just like used this to piggyback porn. Oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, horrible. If you're stuck with that kind of equipment, you can't hook it up on the internet anymore. Pretty much, it's unsafe. It has to be isolated completely. So you're never going to use the internet. Yes, you're going to have to use floppy disk or a local network or something if it has an Ethernet port. That's all you can do. Right. Fun times.
The second is G06, an inactive German language number station operated by Russian intelligence again. This station hasn't been heard since 2021. And the final one, which is either a really big coincidence or could be an indicator as to who is behind this modern Persian number station, is E10. E10 was an Israeli number station operated for many years by the Mossad. It hasn't been heard since early 2011, however.
Tango, Alpha, Romeo, Zulu, Sierra, Foxtrot.
All of these stations were believed to be using Windows XP or similar operating systems because they simply work. The Persian number station definitely appears to be using a similar setup. The similarity between it and E10 is very interesting indeed. I have made a full video on number stations that use Windows XP, which I'll link in the description below. The change in frequency, the jamming, and the Windows sound are all really interesting developments in the story of the Persian number station. Was it ever Iranian at all? I guess time will tell, or maybe it won't.
All right, yeah. So go to Ridgeway, Manchester. Check him out. Very good information there. Very good. Ringway, Manchester. All jokes aside about old tech, it's programming. At least it just worked, unlike nowadays. Yes, that's right. Not only did it work, the components in there are higher quality. Because like a lot of the Chinese have taken over like making cheap resistors and capacitors, right? Like open your LCD monitor. Like compare that to old CRT monitors from before. I have old CRT monitors still in storage. Like why do I keep them? Because just in case I need them. Like they just work. You never know when you need to hook up something that needs to go to a VGA and it can only drive an analog signal, right? Not everybody has a GPU that can drive a digital DVI or HDMI signal. So, and also like you can use those things for older equipment. Like let's say you have an X-ray machine. You think that X-ray machine like can output into a digital like signal? No, that thing is probably still going through an analog circuit that drives a analog monitor, and so you can only like hook it up somehow into an analog machine, and that's it. That's the only interfaces will work, will be analog to analog. So that's something you got to think about. Old tech, is very reliable tech, lasts longer, and you never know when you need it. So sometimes, I will hoard some old tech, like 1 or 2 pieces, just in case the end times comes and I need that for some reason. But of course, that's kind of a hoarding mentality. That's kind of why I kept books. Like yesterday on the panel, like Garen was talking about, like when he went to school, they didn't even have textbooks anymore. Everything was digital. And the funny thing is the digital notes that he was getting, they weren't even like real textbooks. They referenced textbooks that he couldn't get. So all the sources for the notes that he was getting, he couldn't go back to the originals, So yeah, like having textbooks now is like could be even very advantageous because publishers won't publish textbooks that have very, very low following, right? Very few people will want to know about, how do I make a single sideband radio transistor, blah, 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 circuit. And no, that knowledge is locked up and locked away digitally, right? And you have to pay a subscription fee for it. And most people are not going to go to pay $500, $1,000 per year just to access like a textbook or two. That's what they're doing now, I'm guessing. That's what they do for university level. So anyhow, should only write textbooks nowadays, not digital. Otherwise, they'll be pirated by AI companies. Yeah, I know. So yeah, that's how we're gonna go on towards the future. I think knowledge will be hoarded by a select group. Very few people will know how to reboot civilization if anything happens. I think, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. Okay, dokie. Anything else? No, I don't think so. But yeah, check out your electronics. They're probably very cheaply made. They only last like a few years now instead of decades like before. Yeah, the most common ones is like the capacitors. They're cheaply made. They bubble up, right? They balloon, and then your monitor stops working. That's one of the common defects I find in a lot of electronics made today. Yeah, they're not made to last for sure. Okay, let's see. The other videos. No, so I'm gonna switch off to Boyd after I read these articles for you. Okay. Article reading time. Let's get to the articles I didn't get to last time. Kick up the background music. And remember, go to Napstar's channel to check out his stream in about 2 hours now. So we got 2 hours until it kicks up his Boyd panel. So any discussions on Boyd, go over there. You can also go to Universal Jones if you missed yesterday's panel. I was up there. What's up, Lawrence? What's up? Lawrence, we are going to switch over after I read these articles to because I'm multi-streaming on my channels. It give crack to me, so subscribe to that on YouTube and Kick. All right, because I'm gonna play like potentially copyrighted stuff over there. So that's why, you want to subscribe to everything. I don't want to get too many copyright flags on John's channel. Okay, so because we're too naughty over here on the Urban Landlord, apparently. At any moment, someone will come around and be like, "Oh, time for me to do that." All right. So yeah, go here, YouTube, give crack to me, and also on Kick, give crack to me. Go over there because I'm gonna switch over there and turn off the Urban Landlord multi-stream. All right. Okay. So good luck. Can we vote to skip the articles? No, this is a finance show, so I have to get through this stuff because I was supposed to get through it on the previous stream. All right, here. Okay, how quickly Qatar can start up the thing. All right. All right, so if you know, last week Qatar shut down their liquefied natural gas exports. They also have recently shut down some refineries after getting hit. So some oil products are not coming out of Qatar anymore. And their energy minister has warned that it's potentially could mean $120, $150 a barrel on the Brent crude market. So that will be bad for the global economy. Okay. So that's something you might want to pay attention to if the war continues longer than a month. Qatar Energy has declared force majeure. Force majeure meaning like they can no longer fulfill their obligations for contracts to deliver natural gas because of unforeseen acts of war, acts of God, something like that. That's what the force majeure means here. Okay, that's contract law. LNG exports. After shipping through the Strait of Hormuz halted, restarting LNG production could take weeks or months as plants must shut down when storage fills and require a slow sequential restart process to avoid damaging cryogenic equipment. Global gas markets face a significant supply shock with European and Asian pricing surging nearly 50%, while U.S. LNG exports have little spare capacity to replace the lost Qatari supply. Okay. So this was on Wednesday, following disruptions on the Ras Laffan industrial city facilities caused by the Middle East conflict. This legal declaration effectively releases the state-owned company from contractual delivery obligations due to extraordinary circumstances beyond its control. The shutdown was triggered by a near-complete halt of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. We covered that at the beginning of the show. Due to the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran, Qatar accounts for 20% of global LNG exports, primarily serving Asian markets, including China, Japan, India, and South Korea. South Korea, very important, major producer of AI technology. So if energy prices spike in South Korea for all their semiconductor and other electronic manufacturing plants, expect higher prices going forward for cloud producers like Google, Amazon, right? Facebook, Meta, basically, Microsoft. So those stocks will come into play and have an effect. So that's why I said do not expect these stocks to easily grow the S&P 500 going forward for this year. We probably will be going sideways to down until something changes or we decrease interest rates, but that would mean that we will have a stagflation situation that's going to run out of control for much longer. If you remember the 70s, they tried that. The Fed chair that was doing Arthur Burns tried to decrease interest rates to improve the unemployment. The unemployment has been rising. Okay, it's starting to rise again. We lost 90,000 jobs last month, according to the February release. So that's it. We are trending down, and I don't know how many more jobs are going to get killed by AI. As you can see, Block, which used to be known as Square, who owns Cash App, have laid off a lot of tech workers because of AI. So I'm assuming a lot of other companies will figure out ways to reduce a lot of white-collar work. And if you remember, I had a little stream about this fan fiction that someone wrote a week ago or 2 weeks ago now, that AI will reduce a lot of unnecessary work in the white-collar sector. And then those people will be hard-pressed to find new jobs, right? And he was saying, like, well, that will, maybe those people will go to the gig economy. They'll start being Uber Eats drivers or something because they can't translate their skills to another similar job if everybody is cutting it at the same time. If that's the case, then yeah, that will drive down wages for the gig economy. So people who are relying on that will get competitively priced out because there's a more supply of workers. They can lower the wages at will. So Amazon, Uber definitely do not need to pay you your cut, you know. So Amazon warehouses, like even probably workers will be gone because of AI too. So all these people will just start running around and being desperate. So wage growth will shrink probably, but that will help inflation, I'm guessing. But if oil prices stay around at $100+ a barrel, then that's not going to help. So anyhow, unfortunately, for gas customers, it could take months before the giant LNG plant returns to normal production. U.S. President Donald Trump initially projected that Operation Epic Fury would last only 4 to 5 weeks, but later announced that the U.S. has the capability to go far longer, so it better last only a month here. Come on. His ally in the war, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has described the campaign as quick and decisive action that may take some time but will not last for years. The Trump administration has outlined 4 core goals: destroying Iran's missile and naval capacities, ensuring it never obtains a nuclear weapon, and stopping it from funding regional militant groups. Okay. Tehran has fired hundreds of Shahed drones and high-speed ballistic missiles targeting Israeli and multiple U.S. allied Gulf nations, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Oman. Okay, so let's see. Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city serves as the primary hub for the country's massive LNG operations and is home to the world's LNG export complex. The city's LNG plant features 14 LNG trains with a production capacity of approximately 77 million metric tons per year. The city's port has 6 LNG berths designed to accommodate the world's largest LNG carriers, including Qmax and Qflex vessels. The plant's storage tanks have a capacity of 1,880,000 cubic meters, with additional storage tanks and berths currently being built to handle up to 126 million tons per year by 2027. The plant's current storage takes only 4 days to fill up at full production rates, forcing production to rapidly come to a halt whenever export vessels cannot leave. Once the restart process begins, it will take another 2 weeks for this facility to reach full operational capacity. Restarting is intentionally slow to avoid thermal shock to critical sub-zero cryogenic equipment. LNG production involves extremely low temperatures, negative 160 Celsius or negative 260 Fahrenheit. Rapidly introducing feed gas into cold, idle equipment can cause severe stress, damaging or rupturing vital expensive components. Additionally, trains cannot restart simultaneously. They must be brought back online sequentially to ensure stability. You know, that reminds me of in Israel, they have fabrication plants over there, and in Haifa. So Haifa, Israel is basically their Silicon Valley in Israel. And they have an Intel plant over there making chips. I remember there were protests out there with the Orthodox Jews. The Orthodox Jews hated the fact that these plants were running during Shabbat. So, you know, in strict Orthodox rules, you have to shut down everything. So having a factory run is like against the, you know, against the law of God. And to shut down and restart a semiconductor fabrication plant also cannot be done like with a flip of a switch. You have to slowly ramp up and shut down things because it does a lot of complex chemical processes, right? So this is similar. These things cannot be just turned on and turned off with the flip of a switch. And all this means that global gas markets will be in a significant deficit for several weeks at the very least. The halt in Qatari LNG production due to security concerns in the Strait of Hormuz has intensified competition between Atlantic and Pacific basins, sending European, so this is TTF. TTF is the European natural gas market, okay, and the Asian gas market by up 50%, nearly 50%. So this is not going to be fun for Germany, the UK, France, for sure. You're going to have a lot of energy prices. So not only the oil will increase your petrol prices, so the UK petrol prices, if we get to $120 to $150 a gallon, I mean a barrel, that means like that's going to be pushing your petrol prices to about two pounds per liter. So that's equivalent to an American paying $10 a gallon. So right now you're probably paying about like $5 or $6 a gallon in the UK. So yeah, good luck with that. Nothing can replace Qatari LNG. If the shutdown is prolonged, it portends a larger gas market shock than in 2022 when Russians turned off pipeline gas to Europe. Gas prices could retest their record highs set in 2022. So there you go. There's your inflation right there. And I think the UK has been reporting that youth unemployment has been rising. And someone on some panel was thinking or telling me that, you know, the real number of the UK's unemployment is probably closer to 50%. I don't know. Maybe that's an exaggeration. If you count people that gave up going to work and are on welfare. Okay, unfortunately, the United States, the world's largest LNG producer. Yes, we are the largest LNG producer, but we have very little export capability. As you know, every time we have a Democratic administration, they block permits to expand our capacity to build up ports and LNG facilities to export. Has little immediate spare export capacity to offset major supply disruptions, with only 5% of additional volume available. U.S. LNG export plants are currently running near full capacity, with most production locked in long-term contracts. However, several major LNG export plants are under construction. Yeah, that's probably not gonna be finished anytime soon. Gulf Coast region targeting specific capacity increases by 2030. Key active projects include the massive Plaquemines LNG, Louisiana, Cheniere's Corpus Christi Stage 3, Texas, Golden Pass LNG, Texas, Rio Grande LNG, Texas, Port Arthur LNG, Texas, and the newly initiated Louisiana LNG project. Together, these LNG plants will add over 65 million tons per annum of nominal LNG capacity, or roughly 60% of the current country's current capacity. So a little bit too late. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah, that's right. The economy is gonna finally get wild. Sorry. That's how it's gonna be. Okay, so this is what people are hoping for. People are hoping that the United States will kind of back off on Russian sanctions and give people a way out. They have started doing that with the Indians because the Indians rely maybe 70 to 80% of their crude oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz, and a vast majority of that crude also comes from Iran. So yeah, India, being a neutral country, has bought from Russia until like the US started pressuring them to stop doing that. I guess we're just going to allow them to do this again. India's largest private refiner, Reliance Industries, is sounding the market for buying Russian crude. An anonymous source told Bloomberg on Friday after the United States on Thursday issued a temporary 1-month license to India, allowing it to purchase Russian origin crude loaded on vessels before or on March 5th. Even before the waiver was issued, India was considering returning to buying Russian crude amassed in floating storage in Asia. So this is the dark fleet that was mentioned. As the war in Iran and Tehran, retaliatory strikes in the region have severely disrupted oil flows from the Middle East. India, the world's third largest crude importer, depends on Middle East supply for about 60% of its imports. Then the de facto halted tanker traffic in the Strait of Hormuz has put severe pressure on its supplies. Okay, so yeah, we are giving them a license to start doing it again. Okay, so they got 1 month. Maybe it'll be extended. Maybe the EU might beg the US, or I mean, the EU can do whatever it wants, I guess. I don't think they need to beg us. They might just say, whatever, we're desperate to try to keep inflation down because, you know, if their economies have not really recovered into growth mode really since COVID, then they'll be hard pressed to say, okay, we will stand on principle and not support Russia. You could do that, sure, but you're going to have to rely on the fact that you're going to have to keep interest rates higher or have to increase interest rates again to keep the inflation down, because once everybody figures out that, hey, energy prices are staying higher for longer, that creates a psychological effect. Another part of inflation is that when people believe that prices are going to be higher in the future and they expect prices to be higher, they'll readily accept having higher prices, and you know, the producers themselves will start jacking up prices knowing that people will buy it ahead of time. Because let's say like energy prices in the future are going to stay sticky, then, and people are already bracing their mentality for that, they won't complain when you start raising prices. Of course, the Europeans are a little bit interesting because I know the UK has price caps on their electricity and gas. So utility companies cannot set prices above a certain limit. But even then, I know the governments will know that, hey, yo, if we keep these price caps at a level that's not fair, then some of these companies might go under, right? They'll stop working. There's not so much you can do to fight the natural behaviors of capitalism and economics here. All right, the other thing to worry about is aluminum. This is something I was watching too. Aluminum is going to be interesting play. Sadly, the aluminum stocks, the U.S. aluminum stocks, haven't done very well. It might be because like this is only going to affect the overall global aluminum prices. But one thing to look at is if there's a war, the first thing to go up in a war is aluminum, because aluminum is used in a lot of munitions, okay, and manufacturing of Jets. They really love consuming a lot of aluminum. So jets, drones, everything will use a lot of aluminum, and this is already happening. Aluminum supply disruption moved from risk to operational reality this week. So you can take a screenshot of this chart up here. But the conflict did not arrive into a balanced market. ING's pre-conflict aluminum balance for 2026 showed a structural deficit of approximately 600,000 metric tons before any Gulf supply reduction. 3 constraints were already in place: China's capacity cap limiting production expansion, the imminent closure of the Mozal smelter in Mozambique, and stalled restarts at European and U.S. smelters idled during 2022 to 2023 energy crisis. LME, that's the London Mercantile Exchange, aluminum inventories had been drawing steadily since late 2024, and physical premiums were elevated heading into the year. The cash to 3-month spread on the LME had narrowed materially in the weeks before the conflict, signaling that spot demand was absorbing available supply faster than forward markets expected. The conflict did not create aluminum's tightness. It struck a market that was already running short, and it did so with direct operational consequences rather than just price fear. From threat to halt, what actually stopped 2 actual production and shipping halts this week moved aluminum from a geopolitical risk story to a supply disruption story. On Tuesday, Qatalum, the Qatari smelter jointly owned by the state aluminum producer and Norsk Hydro, began a controlled shutdown after its gas supplier warned of an imminent supply halt due to conflict-related infrastructure pressure. Oh, crap. So, this is not good. Norsk Hydro issued force majeure notices to customers. You know what force majeure is if you listened to me 10 minutes ago. To customers the same day. On Wednesday, Aluminum Bahrain, one of the world's largest single-site smelters, informed customers it had halted all shipments, citing the widening conflict. The London Metal Exchange LME 3-month contract rose 5.1% on the day the Alba halt was announced, touching an intraday high of $3,418 a ton, the highest since April of 2020. The week's total gain of 5.3% to $3,306.50 reflects a cumulative repricing of a market absorbing 2 concrete shutdowns and the broader operational uncertainty across the region. Rio Tinto, so I believe that's Australian-based mining company, separately suspended second quarter supply negotiations with Japanese clients, withdrawing an offer of $250 a ton over LME prices that was already the highest since at least 2015. Force majeure declarations, which were hypothetical scenarios 10 days ago, and now the week's defining market events. Supply suspensions across the region's producer base have moved from risk assessment to operational reality. Goldman Sachs estimates prices could reach $3,600 a ton if the region's production is lost for 1 month. The week's intraday high of $3,418 suggests the market is already pricing partial scenario. Okay, so take a screenshot of that. All right, there you go. Let's see, I'll skip down here. Europe is the most exposed consumer market. Europe is always having problems. Approximately 30% of European aluminum imports originate from the UAE, according to ING. With primary aluminum already in tight supply before the conflict, a sustained reduction in UAE exports would push European physical premiums significantly higher. All right, guys, if you guys are very adventurous, why don't you buy up all the American Reynolds wrap you can get from your grocery store and fly over to England and sell it over there? I'm sure you can make a killing off of this. The U.S. faces similar but partially cushioned exposure. The Middle East accounts for over 20% of U.S. aluminum imports, but tariff-inflated Midwest premiums limit the immediate price upside. Thank God. So tariffs already made people resource to U.S.-made aluminum. That's good. So I think we're going to be shielded for a while. Emirates Global Aluminum, which operates smelters in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, has not yet declared force majeure as of Friday. The two halts already announced at Alba and Quadalum together represent a meaningful share of the 8% of global primary aluminum production concentrated in the region, according to consultancy AZ China. The key variable for European and U.S. buyers is not whether prices rise further from here, but whether EGA remains operational. If EGA follows Quadalum and Alba, the supply disruption would move from significant to structurally severe. Okay, that's it, guys. Get ready for more expensive aluminum. And if we get into more regional conflicts and things like that, aluminum will go up anyway, regardless. So I will have to see if that translates to anything with the aluminum companies. I guess because the aluminum companies can't sell their aluminum to certain markets because of force majeure, that might be the reason why aluminum companies are having a hard time benefiting from these price increases. Kind of like how some of the oil refinery companies also went down last week. So only a select group of oil producers are going to benefit. What's up, Ryan? What's up, Mr. Burns? That is Arthur Burns, not the Simpsons Burns. And then after Burns got kicked out of the Federal Reserve, we had Volcker, and Volcker was the one that rapidly increased interest rates, and that was the time the economy was very terrible. But at that point there was no choice during the oil crises of the 70s going on there. Okay, if you remember the OPEC oil crisis, when the OPEC countries blocked exports to countries that supported Israel during the 6-day war. Okay, little history lesson there. Now we'll go moving on here. Let's look at some tweets first. The software stocks are experiencing a historic run. Okay, so we were talking about IGV versus SOXX. You remember that? So I said, like, IGV, the software sector, which has been beaten down, is probably going to take over from the semiconductors, which was weak last week. So I was shorting semiconductors and longing IGV using Palantir. Okay, so in this case, we had a 16.59 percentage points over the last 6 trading days, the largest 6-day outperformance on record. So if you compare IGV to SOX, that's how much IGV outperformed the semiconductors. Okay, so this marks a historic reversal after software stocks underperformed by nearly 15 percentage points at the end of January, the biggest gap since 2008. This also comes after hedge funds' short exposure to U.S. software and services stocks rose to a record 3.8%. So, yeah, the shorts got squeezed. That's probably temporary. We'll see how it goes after Oracle reports earnings. Okay, so Oracle will be a big one. I think Oracle will also affect the semiconductors just like it did last year, because Oracle was one of the large spenders of AI infrastructure. So if they have trouble servicing their debt, they don't believe that Oracle has enough free cash flow to service their debt, then yes, this will cause problems down the line. Okay, anything else? No, nothing here. Okay, U.S. unemployment numbers. So I've been talking about the unemployment. They've been rising, and also they've been revised. Previous job reports number have been revised down. The U.S. jobs market has seen revisions in all months of 2025 and 11 months of 2024, including the negative 4,000 revision in January. This brings the total to 24 months of revisions over the last 25. Over the last 3 months, U.S. employment has been revised downward by 94,000 jobs. Over the last 13 months, jobs numbers have been adjusted down by a whopping 710,000. What is happening here? This is unbelievable. Now, you know, one reason this could be is because a lot of immigrants have been deported, so many jobs have been lost through that measure. But I don't know. We'll see if this will last much longer. If it does, then you know the next thing around the corner will be AI. So the first few companies like Square/Block, Jack Dorsey's company, which controls Cash App. If that is going to happen through more and more throughout more companies, then yes, AI will also start decimating more jobs as we continue on. And once you have the ball rolling, it's like an avalanche. When jobs start being cut, it's not just like a one-off. usually there's a pattern here, and when it gets stronger and stronger, it can rapidly increase exponentially. So more companies will cut costs, and they'll keep doing it. Yeah, they'll follow each other over and over because they have to compete. You have to know that they compete with each other. If one company is reducing their costs, then they have to take that into account and compete as well and reduce their costs. So they're going to the accountants and trying to figure out which jobs can they cut. This is going to expand wider and wider because every quarter they have to go to the shareholders and tell them that, yay, I made some revenue this year, and this is what I project revenue next year and whatever. So if they can't compete in that arena of cutting jobs, that's going to happen. So once one company figures out a way to cut with AI, the other ones are trying to copy it. The Conference Board leading economic indicator dropped again in January to the lowest level in 12 years. The drawdown since 2021 peak has been 18%, the biggest since the great financial crisis. So yeah, I target around 2027 into 2028 will be when things start really hitting the fan. As far as the stock market, when does it peak? Usually stock market will peak about a year before when everything gets really bad that you start hearing it in the news. So we already went through some of the cycles here. Business tendency surveys. So if we rely on this cycle of business optimism, we will have a peak business optimism around late 2026. So start looking for the market to turn down sometime around 2027. So that's still my target. Inflation is going to rise through 2027 to 2028. And of course, oil will rise through 2027 to 2028. Okay, so I've already gone over these charts. Yes, copper has been going up. Oil will follow copper eventually, and that's what's been happening. I think it's going to do catch up. I targeted eventually oil could reach 180. So that's what I said about a month ago. That's why I'm bullish on oil for at least a month. Okay, and using DeMark indicators, you can see DeMark predicted negative oil prices even before COVID. So, yeah, I would take this very seriously. Eventually, it will get to 180. Probably not right now, though. I think oil will cool off once we know more about how the timeline of and how much expansion Trump is willing to do in Iran. They'll probably cool off once we go back to the table to talk peace or whatever. If they can't do regime change, I don't know if they're going to force the issue. I don't know how serious Trump is with the regime change rhetoric. He might just back off on that if it just becomes too hard. Because yeah, midterms is coming up. You gotta hurry this up. People's memories are like goldfish around here. So if they keep hearing about Iran, guess what? You're pretty much gonna lose the vast majority of House and Senate seats from the GOP. So if that's still on the news. So you got to hurry this up and make people forget you ever were in Iran. All right, sunspot cycles. I've talked about this. Unemployment continued rising. So yes, so sunspots based off of the number of sunspots in the sun, we will see it to rise up into August 2027. So that's when we'll have a peak unemployment. So even this agrees with that. So there you go. So I've reviewed everything I need to here, and now we move on to the last articles. Before I switch over to Boyd stuff, if I do the Boyd stuff, you got to go over to my channels at GetCrack to me, okay, on YouTube and Kick, because I'm gonna play some copyrighted stuff potentially. So I'll just start off with some Boyd content, and then move on from there. We're gonna start off with some Thorpe stuff maybe, and then some Mooncake content after I read this last thing, because the title of the stream is The Rise of Online Digital City-States. This is where I believe we are headed. Okay, so switch off the music here. So the mega cities economy, I've read articles and opinion pieces before about the rise of city-states. Like, we have a lot of tech centers in the world, and And urbanization is increasing to the point where probably by the 2050s, we should have maybe 60 to 70% of the human population stuffed in a city. So it's going to be a very urbanized world. Technology will dominate. Technology already makes up at least about probably now 20% of the world's economy is just based on service technology. And you can go and check out this chart yourself. So there's going to be a few centers where people's population will be concentrated into, and this is very much demonstrated in places like Asia, of course, Asia being very highly populated. So megacity economy, how 7 types of global cities stack up. Back in 1950, close to 30% of the global population lived in cities. That sense has shifted dramatically. By 2050, a whopping 70% of people will live in urban areas, some of which will be megacities housing tens of millions of people. So like little hives, little like insects running around here. This trend of urbanization has been a boon to global growth and the economy. In fact, it is estimated today by McKinsey. McKinsey is a what is that? One of those consulting groups. Actually, Netanyahu used to work for one of these consulting groups. I think he worked for Boston Consulting Group. I don't think he worked for McKinsey. McKinsey is the top one, though. So before Netanyahu became a powerhouse in Israel, yeah, he started off working in consulting groups. McKinsey, that the 600 top urban centers contribute a whopping 60% of the world's total GDP. That's quite a number there. 7 types of global cities. With so many people moving to urban metropolitan areas, the complexion of cities and their economies change each day. The Brookings Institute has a new way of classifying these megacities using various economic indicators. According to their analysis, here's what differentiates the 7 types of global cities. Okay, so global giants. These 6 cities are the world's leading economic and financial centers. They are hubs for financial markets and are characterized by large populations and a high concentration of wealth and talent. Yes, and NYC, Tokyo, and London. London, definitely. The city of London definitely has a lot of finance companies. Of course, like after the Brexit, I think some of them shifted to Paris. Asian anchors. Okay, Asian anchors are not as wealthy as global giants. However, they leverage attributes such as infrastructure, connectivity, and talented workforces to attract the most foreign direct investment out of any other metro grouping. Hong Kong, Seoul, South Korea, and Singapore. Emerging gateways. These 28 cities are large businesses, transportation hubs for major national and regional markets in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. While they have grown to reach middle income status, they fall behind other global cities on many key competitiveness factors such as GDP and FDI. Mumbai, Cape Town, Mexico City, and Hangzhou. Factory China. 22 second and third tier Chinese cities relying on export manufacturing to power economic growth and international engagement. Although Factory China displays a GDP growth rate that is well above average, it fails to reach average levels of innovation, talent, and connectivity. Shenyang, Chengdu, Changchun, and Chengdu. Knowledge capitals. Okay, so this is where I'm at. These are 19 mid-sized cities in the US and Europe that are considered centers of innovation, with elite research universities producing talented workforce in San Francisco, Boston, and Zurich. Zurich, Switzerland. Yes, CERN and all that. Of course. Switzerland definitely has a strong presence. And the rest of them. Okay, yeah, I don't think we need to cover that, but yes, that's it. I think we will see something, go on throughout here. And the reason I mentioned this is because, I talked about the rise of city-states. And I thought that might happen where if everything becomes urbanized, that people will more identify with a city. And because it's mostly cosmopolitan, right? So every time I visit my parents in San Francisco, this is what happens. I usually see people talk in Punjabi, German, French, and Chinese. So These are the types of people. So very tech savvy, service oriented, finance oriented people from across the world congregating in the city, and they probably have no no ties to America, no ties to feeling like Americans. They just go from job to job. They are essentially serfs working for a tech corporation. Whatever tech company will hire them, they will shift their allegiances, right? So this is kind of where we are at. We are in a tech feudalism type of world. We are entering that world. But I'm going to revise my notions here, because I don't think even people feel any attachment necessarily to a location or even a company necessarily either. If we look at Boyd, the bottom of YouTube, you see people have attachments to internet communities, right? And I'm guessing, a lot of these people also have their own internet communities that operate in a similar fashion to Boyd, although probably not as toxic, but maybe just as toxic, depending on how much they discuss certain things, right? Who knows? And of course, there are other communities out there that we might get into as we move on in our discussion of Boyd, because Boyd is not just the Thorpe adjacent or the chaotic truth panelverse, blah blah blah, like Raging Tomato, No, it's beyond this stuff. There are other Boyds out there, and there are other communities out there. They all operate in similar fashions to a government, perhaps. That's what I'm thinking. So, of course, like, people think maybe it's more like a cult because maybe it's centered around certain strong personality types. Maybe with the Thorpes, you have a clear personality type over there where it's very cult-like. But maybe as we go forward, it's going to be more like a government, right? That's how it starts. You form a gang, and then the gang will eventually become your government, essentially, a city-state. Kind of like how the Italian city-states started forming after the decline of the kingdoms and the Roman Empire and the little kingdoms, the German kingdoms that were there, and the decline of that. And then you start building your own little republics, So, okay. If home is where the heart is, this article here, this opinion piece, I guess, then where you live is where your mind is. For many people, that's on the internet. In 2020, the average American spent 7 hours and 50 minutes online per day. That's nearly 120 full days spent online during the year. That's nearly like half of your damn life right there. And if you take away sleeping time, that's pretty much the majority of your damn time then. Equivalent to spending every single moment from January 1st through April 30 online. Much of this time online is spent building, creating, consuming, and communicating. As a result, almost every industry, including retail, banking, payments, automobiles, and more, has been disrupted by our increasingly digital world. But when's the last time we rethought geography? And no, I don't mean redrawing lines on a map. Our current terrestrial notions of geography have gone relatively unchanged for centuries. 200 years ago, a stake in the ground and property deed reflected ownership of that piece of land. Not significantly different from what we do today. Nations have almost always been defined by physical borders and scarcity of land, has time and again led to conflict. Yet on the internet, borders aren't nationalized, ownership rights are complicated, and the potential domains are endless. Physical notions of geography don't map well to an intangible world. If we think of the internet as a new world, still in its earliest stages, it's just under 40 years old after all, then it becomes important to compare developments online with a proper starting point. So much of the activity on the internet, from constructing fundamental infrastructures to organizing ourselves and then figuring out where we belong, mirrors activity in early civilization. Thus, to understand where the internet is headed, it may be useful to look back nearly 5,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia. In Mesopotamia, people organized in city-states. Okay, so I don't know if you know about Uruk or the story of Gilgamesh. Those were city-states. These city-states served as important centers of economic, political, and cultural life, hubs for ideas, artistry, and innovation. The city-states of the internet are online communities. They're metropolises flourishing with skill and energy. At the core of each community are the strongest believers and backers. The outer boroughs are populated by varying degrees of those less engaged than at city center. Social networks, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, seem like the roads. Some are more traversed than others. Some people stick solely to the freeway, while others prefer exploring the rugged backroads. Communities build outposts along the way, often at the intersection of multiple roads. These are places where people can gather to build, create, consume, and communicate. And they're what I call internet city-states. As with any city-state, each of these communities has a governance structure, although most may not realize it. Followers are constituents. Likes and dislikes are real-time feedback on what these constituents think, and unfollows can reflect extreme disapproval of certain policies. Internet mayors are the people who have amassed major followings. You may know some of them well: Elon Musk, Kardashians, Mr. Beast, Charlie D'Amelio, to name a few. One post from any of these people can influence millions. These dynamics create digital democracies. In these city-states, the notion of voting for only one candidate is a false choice, unlike the traditional democratic structures. Votes are theoretically endless, limited only by your attention span and willingness to fill your feed. It's a surprisingly realistic reflection of how people vote in the physical world. 2. Some vote in many elections, while others only vote in one or two. The difference here, however, is that local, state, and national elections aren't well defined on the internet. Every community, no matter the size, is simply a city-state, because some city-states are bigger than others. So why does this matter? For one, it helps put into perspective why regulation of the internet is so difficult. Our national governments are dealing with governments online, yet it's unlikely they realize it. Grilling the people who built the roads and forcing them to add speed bumps may only encourage the online citizens using these roads to build other, less regulated roads. I don't know the right way to go about regulating the internet, but focusing purely on the platforms doesn't seem to be it. Second, it should remind you of your power on the internet. Who you follow, when you choose to press the like button, and how you dedicate your time are all forms of votes in these digital democracies. Our generation is the first that's had to live with a fully accessible history of everything. So I'll stop there and pause because, if you listen to Universal Jones talk about receipt culture, that's your receipt culture right there. Howdy, howdy, Black Americans Fatigue 7. What's up? What's up? AI is being used as a smokescreen for real reasons for layoffs. Yeah, I think so. That is something I've thought about. But whether or not it's the reasons, I think it will happen because of structural factors in the economy that we can't get. Okay. So that's the receipt culture, all right, that Universal Jones is talking about. So if you haven't subscribed, please go to check out Universal's channel. We had a big panel, 8 hours worth of content yesterday, talking about Boyd, and people had drama there. So you can skip around through the stream to go to whichever sections you want to see. And so that's his channel, and this was yesterday's panel, 8 hours. Okay, and within 1 hour we will have a Napstar will have his own panel. All right, so go to the Be Better Network if you want to know more about Boyd. Research this stuff, and we'll talk about these city-states concepts, I'm sure, when I get the time to present them to Universal and see that. And that's the link to yesterday's 8-hour panel. And Napstar, we will have our own panel again, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Daylight. So you have to remember, we're on daylight time now. Okay, so go to that link. All right, there you go. What's up, Tyrone? What's up? Yeah. I think it's already too obvious what my cards are. It's already too obvious now. It doesn't matter anymore. I slow dripped everything to people over the time I've been in this community. So, and Universal is taking over my job eventually because I eventually have to get out of here. And I think Universal will be a great steward of keeping the lore and keeping this as an example of the times that we are headed into. All right. So yes, fully accessible history, receipt culture of everything we've done online, and for better or worse, actions taken now can and will likely resurface decades later. Do your diligence on communities and their internet mayors the same way you would on a candidate running for president. Oh, well, I mean, you're kind of new, right? Because I was here maybe in the Thorpe sphere and the CT sphere starting summer of 2024. So you're relatively new, maybe a year after that. And if you saw me on the John Galt panels, you would have saw what I was doing. Yeah, I mean the Thorpes and other people would say like, oh, GetCrack just wants a place just to talk shit and whatever. That's it. Like, no, I had a purpose of doing all I was doing out here. So if there was gonna be a success story, it wasn't because I wanted views or something. Yeah, what's up? Yes, Tyrone. It's been a long time, Tyrone. How long have you been on panel, Tyrone? Like, when was the last time you've been on panel? It was so long, I think, right? Man, it was like the first time we started on the John Galt with the trucking show with HB. Good times. The summer of 2024 was so good in terms of like panel content. Finally, the framing internet communities as a collection of city-states highlights how much opportunity there still is. When people first learn about Mesopotamia, often in a grade school classroom, many think, wow, that was a long time ago. So much has happened since then. It was, and much has, if we think about the internet as still in its Mesopotamia days. It becomes evident how early we still are. Sometimes it's hard to grasp just how early we are because many of us, millennials and Gen Z in particular, haven't known a world without the internet. I don't claim to know what the future of the internet holds, but what I do know is that history tends to repeat itself. So when thinking about where the internet is headed, consider adding a history textbook to your reading list. That's what I'm doing. Well, there's a saying like history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. Yeah. Oh, no, no. I just use that as an example, Gobbly. Like I said, you shouldn't take that personally because you were just like the most recent example of someone acting like that, right? My main example was Mackenzie. So Mackenzie Carter Cameron, like she really embodies it. So she's like the lead example because she inhabits that avatar probably for the vast majority of her interactions out here. Another person that kind of does that too, is Gia. Gia, because there was a lot of back communication between Gia and TK that a lot of you guys don't know about. I only know about it because Gia tried to contact me to help, because Gia was the first one trying to help TK and Dan out for the show, and I was kind of like taking over from her a little bit, and I had some emails between her because I didn't have Discord, so I was communicating with her. So I do know a little bit about that. So I think Gia may be more of another major example. You were just more recent because of your dealings with Gamer. Because like if they were gonna pull up clips about Gamer, it was just like, yeah, you are okay. If you're gonna do Gamer clips, then if they pull up a clip where you were interacting with Gamer, then that was an example, a good example of something that happened recently. But no, I mean I know that like probably Jeremy is the one that tries to accuse people of being mommy or daddy a lot. So so anybody that gives like Jeremy advice, he'll immediately blast them and say like, oh, you're trying to be my dad, you're trying to be my mom or some shit. Yeah, That's kind of like more, yeah. That's what I meant, like part of being a road. Oh, that no. Oh, that was just more for HFF, like in general, because we kind of, well, it's not only just like that. It's just like LCU mostly, but it's kind of like, because whatever Ava does, like Ava goes to a community and implodes it, and then it spreads everywhere else because she's the one that hops between communities. And every time Ava starts talking about a community, that community is on the way down, right? When she's going to the Thorps and starts talking about the Thorps, look at where the Thorps are. Like the Thorps are a dying community. And then then Ava goes to HFF and then brings over Dan and TK, and then everything implodes and shit. Yeah. Like Dan and TK is kind of like the poison pill. Like you bring Dan and TK into the community, and then everybody's like, yeah. So it's not because like I'm thinking everybody's a bug, but it's more like the fact that like when the house that you're living in is imploding and you scatter everywhere, that's what happens. The whole neighborhood starts getting refugees because people are trying to find somewhere else to watch, right? For content. Some people are there to watch for content, new content. Some people are there to make a new Discord community or something like that. Or some people just want a place to belong. Yeah. So that's more likely. That's what I meant by that analogy. Because it's like a vector of insects, I suppose. I mean, is it better if I compared everyone to like a germ and do germ theory or something? Do you like that analogy better? No, probably not. Okay, what else here? Oh, something else I've heard. The Palantir is stocking up offices with nicotine pouch vending machines. So Zins are popular over there. There you go. Got some Zins here. Free Zins for everyone. I mean, that's pretty bad. I mean, when I worked, I would be hoping like, hell, yo, you gotta. I don't want that shit. Give me some acid to microdose or something. What the fuck, man? Give me some Zins. What a cheap way. Or at least give me some Adderall or something. Okay. To abuse. Well, I guess that's just too. That's just gonna create too many liabilities. Yeah, we got some drug addicts in the future too. Okay, last thing to talk about: Hindenburg Omen has been flashing off a lot recently out here. Yeah, are we gonna crash or not? I don't know. Whatever. We got this front month, so 3 month over front month of volatility index indicator. We should bounce on Monday if nothing goes wrong. Okay, if nothing goes wrong, we get no news. We should try to bounce. However, if we fail this week to hold, we might crash and go all the way down. Yeah, I don't know. Porsche's gone, Tyrone. Yeah, I don't know. HB's moved on to like, it's not going to be the same. I don't think we can replicate it anyway. Everything's changed too much. I wish. Oh, you like that? Yeah, I try to find some non-copyright disease. It's not really MySpace, you know. It's not MySpace. It's not my property. It's not my property to declare my opinion anyway. It's the community. It's the whole community. It's not my opinion. Doesn't really matter. It's just a convenient analog for how things spread around the different voids, I guess. Okay. All right. Let me play some Void stuff, and then we'll switch over before I play some copyright stuff later on. So please subscribe to my channels. All right. Give crack to me. I will shut off the Urban Landlord multi-stream in about 20 minutes or so, I guess. Okay. And but we will play this video first from Mooncake. And hopefully I got enough memory in my computer to run this shit. Because if you run StreamYard for a little bit too long, it sucks up all your memory in your browser. It's 2 hours now. Let's see what happens. All right, come on. So, let's see what Mooncake said about 2 weeks ago. You guys like the drama, don't
Hello.
you?
Hello. Wait, let's see. Oh, hi, Hurricane Paro. Hey, how are you, my dude? I'm Montero. Hi, Poof. I love you too. I don't know if any of you saw this stream from yesterday. I'm not pinching my face, Poof. I'm not in the mood today. Did any of you see my stream? Hi, Mythical. Hi, DR. Outfit check. I'm just wearing a tracksuit. I'm just wearing a Lululemon tracksuit. You can kind of see it in front of a Lulu tracksuit. Poof. I'm not dealing with you today. Yeah, I got so much, what's the word I should use? I got a lot of pushback on that live. What was that about? Talking to too many people at one time, but like I'm over everybody. I'm over everyone. I'm just over everybody. And I don't care, like whoever's in here who's gonna like run back and tell like Shen and like Hammer and like anyone else, I don't even give a fuck. Go tell them. I really don't care. Like I'm over all of them. I'm done. I think here's my goal, okay? I'm also sorry the lighting is so bad. Here's my goal. I want to go be single for a year. I want to do a silent retreat in like Thailand. I want to do a silent retreat. I want to travel. I want to just focus on work. And I want to go be single. I want to go be single for a year or two. And then try and meet someone. I want to meet someone when I'm a little bit older. People are going to say that's not good because of how old I already am, but I don't care anymore. I'm not doing any of this anymore. I'm just gonna go be single, go live my life. I need to go back home to Canada. Do you need like a bench down? True, you are an old hag. I know, no, Montero, it's true. I am an old hag. I'm just 27. I'm fucked. I'm screwed. Yeah, I'm just kind of over it. You know what? Lesson learned from me. Okay, let me tell you guys something. Don't date people you meet on the internet. That's just not a good idea. Like, I have stuff in hat. What? Are you talking about my cowboy hat? Is that what you're talking about? Hi, Vanta. By the way, sorry the lighting is shitty. And yeah, you might be cut. I know. I think I just want to be single for a year and then just go live my life. I think I made a lot of mistakes. And I think, and just a warning for a lot of you, I think I made a lot of mistakes and I think I made a lot of wrong decisions and I can only blame myself at the end of the day. Hi Clouds. So like I said, don't be like me. Don't be like me because it fucking sucks. And now I have to fix a bunch of these mistakes and like I wish I could tell you guys and I can't. And it's gonna take me forever to fucking fix these. Like, I just want to go home. Auntie's grieving on what should we do? I already forgave you. Thanks, Clouds. Yeah, yesterday was a mess. Yesterday was a complete mess. And like, push-up smart. This is, what's crazy? This isn't even a push-up bra. This is just a normal one. You're always a bitch. Go home and recharge. I need to go home. Guys, if you can, just shameless plug. Cash App is MoonkickXO. So is the PayPal. Hi, Oxy. Bullshit. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I'm actually not doing, it's actually really not a push-up, I promise. We all make mistakes. Yeah, but Clouds, I make a lot of them. Hi, Poof. I'm good. How are you? I make a lot of them. It's not good. Or should we give you time? I mean, it's like what part do you want to talk about? Like, I know some of you were there for yesterday, and it was like, with like the multiple people and stuff, and like they were upset. One guy messed up. Vanta, yeah. And so, Vanta, I decided that I just need to be single for a year. And, oh, Oxy. I had one guy on the phone, we're talking. Hi, Poor. I had one guy talking on the phone, and he reamed me out for seeing another guy. Hey, Ponder. And then some issues happened with thing, and like I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take a year break from dating or being in relationships. I'm gonna take a year break from dating or being in relationships, and I'm just gonna focus on fucking, I don't know, traveling. Oh, hey, Art. Hi. Yeah, I think I'm going to focus on traveling for a year, and like I want to do the silent retreat, so I'm going to focus more heavily on Buddhism, and I'm going to Which one, Clouds? Which person? Oh, me and Hammer? I know, technically we weren't. So, I mean, people get mad at me for that, but by the way, this is a VOD show. I've been holding on to this. What's wrong with art? I like art. Art's cool. Don't do the Eat, Pray, Love. People will see me sitting around the world. No, I'm gonna do the Eat, Pray, Love vibe. I am gonna do the Eat, Pray, Love vibe. Definitely do so. Thanks, Oxy. I appreciate that. I know, I need to go back to my Lego streams. That's when life was so easy. Life was simple then. I didn't know this, like, dating and stuff would be so messy. I'm gonna go to IG, give this guy the loyalty test. Who? I don't like it. Gmon, what does that mean? I go over in 24 hours. I'll tell you the details, okay? Unless I didn't have a life. It'd be best to do. You know what? I'm doing a lot of walking. I haven't for the past couple of days. I've been a bit, like, sad and depressed, but I don't even know how long I'm gonna stream today. I'm just kind of like, I know dating in our generation fucking sucks, guys. Like, I don't know. You know what? You might be on something, Fianta. We might need arranged marriages because I keep picking wrong. I keep fucking up, so you guys might be on something. Genuinely. I keep fucking up. My dating life. I'm not meeting anyone online anymore. If I'm gonna date someone, we're gonna meet IRL, real life, okay? I want to meet you in like a restaurant or a lounge or at the grocery store. I want to do stuff like that. I don't want to meet people online anymore. Not for dating. Friends, sure, but when it comes to dating, I don't think it's a good idea. Arrange with a beauty. Only wrong when babies are involved. Hi, Sim. And what do you mean, sorry? Hi, King Nova. Hi, Weebop. Hi, Main Event. Time will heal. I mean, I hope so. I think I'm just going to take a break. And I'm going to... I don't know. I'm going to go home. It's a very adult of you. I just think I need to meet somebody IRL. I think that's the best idea. Poof, I mean, sure, I can try if you really want me to. But Poof, you should pay me for that. Hi, Oats. I'm sorry, but I'm tired tonight. That's okay. I'm kind of streaming late. I don't know how long I'm going to stream for. I'm just kind of complaining about the fucking bullshit that's going on. Oh yeah, once kids are involved, you're stuck. Dude, I'm so glad. I'm actually really lucky I don't have any children. I'm just like... So... I'm not going to work for free. I don't know what you think this is. You're just like, work for free, man. If you had a friend of a friend of a friend or a relative, no randomness, it works well. I mean, I think it's possible, but it's like you got paired up with someone that you just like despise. Somebody like, oh no, thank you. I don't know where it is. It is kind of late though. Oh, I think it's like 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So let's see. Let's see. I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just sad. Just having a sad day. Hi, Scrubby. You bum in? Yes, sir. I'm in like a bad mood today. Ugh. Feel free. Do you think you can still be friends with the opposite sex if you've seen each other's genitalia? I think so. I mean, I really think once you meet years ago, if it was like 15 years ago, I really don't think it's something that is even important. Do you think you got evil eye because you flexed your relationship? Yes. Yes. Emotional toll, Bob. You know what? I gotta take responsibility for a lot of that, so that is what it is, you know? You're an incel? You're not even an incel. Hope this isn't a cope stream. Wait, what's a cope stream? If you don't mind me asking. What's a cope stream? No, I mean, I said I take full responsibility for everything, like yesterday. I'm saying, who's Brown Man? Some sorry never sleeps. Oh, it's okay, Bob. I mean, that's life, right? Yep. One for this really fucked up. Yeah, Lola. Oh, okay, shit. I was just curious. I was like, oh, I wasn't too sure. Brevin is great. One time too. So yeah, this is just like, I guess, a cleaning stream. I don't know. It's nothing entertaining. I'm not like high energy. It's just, I guess you call it lazy in a way, or me being as real as I can be. I was listening to sad music earlier. My DMs are always open. That's very sweet. Hello, fucking EE, what are you talking about? You're so gross. No, EE, I told you I'm going to be single for a year, and I'm going to go to Thailand, and I'm going to do a silent retreat, and I'm going to, yeah, I'll try TV Pop. I'm literally the Marvin's room. Can you believe that? Whose money? Whose money do I have? I'm just like waiting to go home. I'm just like fucked up. Sounds like an exciting plan. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Doing a struggle session alone as well. Things are going good. I know this really is a lone struggle session. Isn't that insane? You're a queen, Cat Moon, but we still love you for who you are regardless. I'm serious. I love the weekend. Do I just want a 10-day silent meditation retreat? They're free too. I want to do a silent retreat so badly because I'm playing with my watcher. I think I'm just like, oh, fuck. Maybe I should start dating women. Maybe that's my problem, huh? Maybe I need to start dating women. Looking shop today. Thanks, Dan. That really is helpful. That really just, brightens up my day. But that hurts the wallet. I know, it just seems so cool. And it's probably really peaceful and it's good. Don't be liberal, Moon. I like being liberal. Experiment and film it. Oh, I would love to film it. That'd actually be so cool. Get on your phone, stop talking to humans. Way to pile on. Like, literally, way to pile on. Thanks, buddy. Do you think the problem is modern culture? As an incel, yes and no. I mean, social media has probably made loneliness worse, and the idea of having relationships is probably even harder. So if you're an incel, I don't know if I would tell you. Going to eventually, I'm guaranteeing you you'll get over it. I mean, that's true. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna lay down a little bit because I'm being lazy today. I think I'm more, 1 second, let me put my Hello Kitty blanket out. Let's not get Hafez upset or anything. And quit. What a diabolical. It's I wish I could explain it, but I can't. I wish I could, but you know what? Get comfy. I'm trying. That was a cool small Tibetan Buddhist. But hi, Imperial. Hi. I'm just hanging out. I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about. Did not hit it and quit it. I ended things. Hi, Dabs. Intimate relationships? People are less personable. I mean, probably to an extent, people are less personable. Compassion. It's unfortunate. Oh yeah, I also have Twitch. Bitch, if she was born with an XY chromosome, she has an epic jawline, hella Riz. Odin 6, she's 5'10" as a woman. Honestly, true. Hi, MRJ. I mean, EAU's correct. Now I have to wait for you to come visit. Yep, you gotta wait a year. Moon, do you have Riz? I mean, maybe. I have empathy still. I'm just like... I have empathy still. I am just mentally ill. Stay strong, my glorious bucko. What's been new? You don't even want to know. You genuinely don't even want to know. You guys don't want to know. Vanta eventually, but I think it's going to take longer. I think it's going to be a while for that to happen. Unfortunately, I think that's gonna be a little while. It's money on the floor. Listen, starting Imperial, I got in so much trouble for that shit yesterday. I got in so much trouble for that shit. I'm just like, okay, just play the victim. Like, it's just fucking incredible. It's honestly fucking incredible. It's true. And it's like, you try and pick the good ones, and even then, it's fucked up. You read some Carl again, that'll help. Random masterclass guy, like, cast on this one. Listen, fucking UJ, fucking Hammer, fucking Shen. Hi, Gag. I'm good, how are you? Fucking Mr. 42, fucking everybody else. Imperial, I respect that, actually. I'm riding with you right or wrong. This is what I'm talking about. It's real as fuck. Yeah, all men are like this. I'm 27. Gag, I'm 27.
Yo, all right. I'm back. So I played a little bit of this. I think you get kind of an idea where Mooncake is gonna go, so I'm gonna keep playing a bit of this stuff here. I'm sorry for like the video, like stuttering a bit because like I didn't have time to reduce it to 720p on this video here. It's at 1080, so this is an odd live. Yeah, she went on like a revelation, I guess, a disclosure, or maybe it's an admission or a confession. I don't know. Thank you, Tyrone, for subbing, because we're going to switch over. So I'm going to turn it off here on the Urban Landlord. We will continue over my channels at GetCrack to me. Okay, so go over there on YouTube and Kick. Okay, go over there right now. We'll play more stuff, Thorpe stuff, and I can play more background music choices here, which are, I guess, quote unquote, could be copywritten or some shit. I don't know what's copyright or not copyright. It's the copyright algorithm is very selective in what it thinks is actually copyright, even though it shouldn't be copyright. So I think a lot of people put content IDs all over the stuff. And that's really annoying for anybody trying to just replay things to react to it, you know. Okay, so GetCrack to me. So I'm gonna shut this down on the Urban Landlord. We're gonna switch over here. Goodbye, guys. I'll see you around for another finance session on Monday, I guess, depending on how exciting it is. If it's not exciting, then who cares? Maybe I won't show up tomorrow. Also, Napstar will have a stream, so go over to his channel. It's going to start within like 45 minutes or so. Okay, and there you go. That's his channel right there. Over there, sub to that. Get the notifications on. And this is the stream link, so go over there. All right, shutting down the Urban Landlord. Go over to my channel.